The night was alive with a violent storm. Rain pounded the abandoned mansion at the edge of the forest, and lightning illuminated its shattered windows like hollow eyes. David, Sarah, and Mark stepped inside, hearts hammering, unaware of the horrors that waited. The door slammed shut behind them with a deafening bang, and the air turned icy, their breath visible in clouds. A faint whisper slithered through the hall. "You shouldn't be here." The first sign came from the shadows. A cold hand brushed David's shoulder. He spun around. No one was there. A chandelier swung violently above them, crashing against the wall with a deafening crash. Sarah screamed as the floorboards creaked beneath her feet, moving as if something was dragging her toward the darkness. Mark shone his flashlight down a hallway. For a split second, a pale face with glowing red eyes appeared in the corner, teeth twisted in a permanent, ghoulish grin. When he blinked, it was gone. The house itself seemed alive. Walls oozed black liquid, dripping down in thick, sticky strands that smelled of decay. Mirrors reflected things that weren't real. David saw himself bleeding from his eyes, his own silent scream frozen on his face. A distant, high-pitched giggle echoed through the halls surrounding them. The air grew thicker, heavier, each step forward like walking through invisible hands trying to pull them into the shadows. Suddenly, the grand staircase groaned. Emily's figure appeared at the top, floating, hair whipping like black flames. Her eyes burned red, and her voice reverberated inside their skulls. "You trespass, you will pay with fear." Lightning illuminated her face for a heartbeat, revealing hollow cheeks and a mouth stretched into a silent scream of rage. The friends froze, realizing they had awakened something far more terrifying than death itself. The storm outside raged louder, as if reacting to their fear. David, Sarah, and Mark clutched each other, their footsteps echoing on the warped floorboards. The shadows stretched and writhed along the walls, forming grotesque shapes, hands, faces, mouths silently screaming. The mansion was alive, and Emily's anger pulsed through every corner. Mark ran into the kitchen. Cabinets slammed themselves open and shut violently. Pots and knives clattered to the floor as if thrown by invisible hands. Then, from the darkness, a whisper. "Do you feel it? My pain, my rage." Sarah spun around, only to see her own reflection in the refrigerator glass, her face bleeding from eyes and mouth, eyes wide with terror, silently screaming. David stumbled into a hallway where the walls seemed to breathe. They expanded and contracted, and the wallpaper peeled off like a skin. Shadows coiled like snakes, reaching for him, brushing his arms with icy fingers. The air grew thick with whispers of his worst fears, every regret, every guilt, spoken in Emily's cold, distorted voice. Then came the first attack. From the ceiling, a black, viscous substance shot down, wrapping around Mark's legs. He screamed as it pulled him toward a yawning darkness in the floor. The walls cracked violently, and Emily appeared at the end of the hallway, floating, her hair writhing, as if alive. Her face was skeletal now, eyes glowing red, mouth twisted into a grin that promised death. "You cannot escape. I am every shadow, every fear, every scream." Sarah tried to run, but the hallway stretched endlessly. Doors led to rooms she had never seen before, rooms filled with her own worst memories, distorted and screaming. She felt invisible hands drag her backward, her feet sticking to the floor. The mansion's walls closed in around her, and Emily's voice grew louder, a deafening echo inside their heads. "Your fear is mine now forever." The three friends realized the horrifying truth. The mansion wasn't just haunted, it was Emily. And she had only just begun. The mansion's walls groaned like living flesh. David's hands were bleeding from claw-like scratches that seemed to appear from nowhere. The air was suffocating, thick with the smell of rot, and something far worse, Emily's presence. Every heartbeat felt like it was being mirrored by the mansion itself, pulsing with an unnatural rhythm. Mark screamed as he was dragged into a room with no doors, the ceiling pressing down, low and suffocating. Shadows slithered along the walls, whispering his deepest fears. Faces appeared in the blackness, his mother crying silently, his own face screaming, but when he blinked, they vanished, replaced by Emily's skeletal grin. "Every scream, every tear, belongs to me now," she hissed, her voice vibrating through the floor. Sarah ran down a hallway, doors appearing where none had existed. One opened to a nursery. The walls were covered in scratch marks, deep and fresh. Toys moved by themselves. A lullaby played, warped and distorted. In the mirror, she saw Emily rocking a crib, except the crib held Mark, twisted and crying silently, his eyes glowing red. Sarah stumbled backward, but the hallway had shifted again. She was lost, swallowed by the mansion. David found himself in a dining hall. Plates and silverware flew through the air, smashing against walls. Shadows wrapped around him, whispering names of the dead. He heard Emily behind him. "You cannot run. You cannot hide." Her hand pierced through the wall, grabbing his shoulder. He felt her icy grip, pulling him toward the darkness as her hair coiled like serpents around his neck. Lightning flashed, revealing her fully for the first time. Pale, skeletal, eyes blazing red, and mouth stretched impossibly wide in a silent scream. "I am your fear, your death, your nightmare," she shrieked. The floor quaked beneath them, and the mansion itself seemed to pulse with her rage. The friends realized escape was impossible. Emily had them. The mansion seemed to breathe, walls stretching and cracking like living skin. David, Sarah, and Mark were scattered, each trapped in rooms that shifted endlessly. The air was thick with an icy stench, the whispers louder now, screaming their names, mocking them. "You will feel my pain, forever." Emily's voice slithered through every shadow, every corner, growing louder with each heartbeat. Mark found himself in the library. Books flew off shelves as if pushed by invisible hands. Pages ripped themselves out midair, forming sharp edges that sliced his arms and face. Shadows coiled around him, whispering the secrets of his sins. A mirror shattered behind him, and Emily's reflection grinned, stepping out of the shards. Her hand reached for him. The cold burned like fire. He screamed as he was lifted off the floor, held in her grip like a puppet. Sarah ran through a corridor where the walls bled black liquid. The floor shook violently, throwing her to her knees. Doors appeared at impossible angles, leading to rooms filled with her worst fears. Her parents screaming in agony, her own voice crying for help, all distorted, all real. She tried to run, but the hallway twisted endlessly, trapping her. Emily appeared above, hair writhing like snakes, eyes glowing red. "Your fear feeds me. Your screams nourish me." David, alone in the dining hall, saw the ceiling ripple as if alive. Plates, knives, and glasses levitated, spinning like deadly blades. Shadows reached through the air, wrapping his arms, biting his skin. Emily hovered in the center of the hall, skeletal form fully revealed, a grin that promised eternal torment. "No one leaves, none survive. I am everything you fear." The mansion itself convulsed. Floors opened into voids, walls twisted like flesh, ceilings dripped black sludge. The friends realized Emily's vengeance had become absolute. They were no longer trespassers. They were prey, trapped in a nightmare that had no end, no mercy, no escape. The mansion was no longer a building. It was a predator. Every wall, floor, and ceiling seemed alive, twisting and breathing with Emily's rage. David, Sarah, and Mark were separated, each trapped in impossible rooms. Shadows clawed at them relentlessly, whispering their deepest fears, their darkest secrets. "I see everything. I know everything. You belong to me." Mark stumbled into a room filled with mirrors. Every reflection was a version of himself screaming, bleeding from eyes and mouth, twisted beyond recognition. One reflection stepped out from the glass, Emily. Her icy fingers pierced his chest, sending searing pain through his body. He screamed as he was lifted into the air, suspended by invisible force, and the mirrors multiplied around him, reflecting his suffering endlessly. Sarah found herself in a nursery. The crib held something impossible. Mark, lifeless, eyes glowing red, mouth twisted in silent agony. Toys rolled and floated around her, moving on their own. A distorted lullaby echoed, sung by Emily herself. The walls began to close in slowly, dripping black liquid that smelled like decayed flesh. "Do you see? This is your nightmare, my vengeance," Emily whispered from the ceiling, her hair like writhing snakes, eyes burning red. David ran through a hallway that stretched endlessly. Doors opened to rooms with screaming faces from his past, their mouths moving without sound. Every step forward was met with walls bending to block him, floors opening into voids. Suddenly, Emily appeared behind him, skeletal hands on his shoulders. "Your fear is my feast." Lightning illuminated the mansion, revealing Emily fully, pale, skeletal, hair moving as if alive, eyes glowing red, mouth stretched impossibly wide. The mansion trembled violently as her voice boomed. "You cannot escape. Your souls are mine forever." The friends realized in horror they were no longer trespassers. They were prey. The mansion had claimed them. There was no escape. The mansion shook violently, as if enraged by the presence of the intruders. Lightning flashed, revealing David, Sarah, and Mark, trapped in the grand hall. Shadows writhed across the walls like living serpents. Emily hovered above, fully revealed, skeletal, hair thrashing like black fire, eyes blazing red, and mouth stretched impossibly wide in a silent scream of rage. "This is your end, your fear, my feast." The ceiling cracked, sending debris crashing down. Black, viscous liquid oozed from every corner, burning the skin it touched. Mark tried to move, but the floor itself grabbed him, pulling him into a bottomless void. He screamed as his body was stretched and twisted, bones snapping under invisible force. Sarah reached for him, but Emily appeared between them, her fingers wrapping around Sarah's throat. The icy grip burned like fire, lifting her into the air as shadows consumed the floor beneath her. David ran, but the walls twisted into endless hallways, each door opening to visions of death, his own mutilated body, Sarah screaming silently, Mark's face frozen in agony. Emily appeared in every vision, closer and closer. "You cannot escape, none survive. I am every fear you have ever known." Her voice reverberated inside their skulls, making their hearts pound in terror. Lightning struck again. The mansion seemed to breathe, walls pulsating like living flesh. Emily's hands reached toward the three friends simultaneously. Time slowed. Their screams echoed endlessly as they were pulled apart, dragged into shadows that moved with purpose, a dark abyss that devoured everything. By dawn, the mansion stood silent. Outside, the storm had passed, but Emily remained, hovering in the darkness, watching, waiting. Anyone who dared enter that cursed house would hear the faint sound of her laughter echoing through the trees, a chilling reminder that her vengeance was eternal. "You belong to me, forever." If you enjoyed this horror story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell icon for more terrifying stories.